The light in the
It's time.
University of
So
Iowa
soon?
lecture hall falls
We
at an
have to
angle
go.
through tall
Board up.
windows, catching dust motes that drift like memories suspended in amber. Anna Weber Henderson stands at the podium, 53 years old, her hands
Figures.
weathered
Right
by
away, sir.
time but steady.
Greta, type the
In her
summary.
Yes,
palm
sir.
rests something small, a compass no bigger than a quarter. The metal surface catches the afternoon sun, throwing tiny reflections across the wood grain of the lectern. She turns it slowly between her fingers. 200 faces watch from tiered seats. Students mostly. Young people who have never known hunger, never known war, never known the weight of discovering that everything you believed was a lie. Anna lifts the compass higher so the light plays across its painted red surface. Her voice when she speaks carries the faint trace of an accent that 29 years in Iowa has never quite erased. In November 1944, I was taught that Americans were barbarians who would torture and starve their prisoners. 3 weeks later, an American sergeant handed me a box of candy with a toy inside, and everything I believed about the world shattered in that moment. She pauses. The silence in the room is absolute. Even the usual rustling of notebooks has ceased. This compass. She holds it up higher still. It cost nothing. American children received one in every box of Cracker Jack candy. They played with them for an afternoon, then threw them away with candy wrappers and forgotten dreams. But to me, it was worth more than all the gold in Berlin, because it showed me the truth about a lie so enormous an entire nation believed it. The scene dissolves, shifts. Time bends backward like light through water. November 12th, 1944. The Illinois countryside rolls past in shades of brown and gray. The transport truck lurches over rutted roads, its canvas cover flapping in the cold wind. Inside, 43 women sit on wooden benches, their gray auxiliary uniforms wrinkled and stained from weeks of processing through military channels. Most keep their eyes fixed on the truck. Bed floor, some pray silently, some weep without sound. Anna Weber sits near the front, her back rigid despite the truck's violent jostling. 24 years old, dark blonde hair pulled into a bun so tight it makes her scalp ache. In her coat pocket, her fingers clutch a photograph. The edges have worn soft from constant handling. Her mother, her father, her two brothers, Franz and Wilhelm, in their Wehrmacht uniforms. The photo was taken in 1942, before everything fell apart. Next to Anna sits Katrine Vogel, 27, factory worker from Munich with hands calloused from machinery and eyes that have seen too much for someone so young. They met during training in occupied France, became friends in the way soldiers do, bonded by shared fear and mutual survival. Katrine's jaw is set hard, her mouth a thin line of determination. "We do not break," Katrine whispers in German. Her hand finds Anna's squeezes once. "Remember who we are. Germans do not break." Anna nods but says nothing, because she is already breaking, has been breaking since the moment of capture 3 weeks ago. The Americans had been unexpected. Not cruel, not brutal, simply efficient. Processing prisoners like paperwork, checking names against lists, providing basic medical care, transporting them in trucks that actually ran on real gasoline instead of wood gas converters. The propaganda she absorbed during her years of service told her what to expect from American captivity. Brutality, humiliation, perhaps worse. She had been trained to believe that Americans were barbarians hiding behind a facade of civilization, that their wealth was stolen from conquered peoples, that their democracy was a lie designed to mask their true cruelty. But the evidence of her eyes kept contradicting the evidence of her training. The truck slows, turns. The women shift, bracing against the benches. Through gaps in the canvas cover, Anna catches glimpses of the camp. Neat rows of wooden barracks, well-maintained grounds, American soldiers moving about their duties with casual efficiency rather than menacing aggression. Guard towers, yes. Fences, yes. But not the hellscape she had been promised. The truck stops. The engine dies. In the sudden silence, Anna can hear her own heartbeat, can hear Rosa Muller crying softly somewhere behind her. Rosa, 19 years old, the youngest among them, still more child than woman despite the uniform. The canvas flap opens. Daylight floods in, momentarily blinding. An American officer stands at the tailgate. A woman. Anna blinks, certain she has misunderstood. But no. Captain's insignia on the collar. Female. An officer. The cognitive dissonance is immediate and profound. Captain Helen Morrison gestures for them to disembark. Her German is heavily accented but comprehensible. She speaks about camp rules, procedures, housing assignments, 3 meals daily, work details appropriate to their skills, treatment in accordance with the Geneva Convention. The words sound too good to be true, which makes Anna more suspicious rather than less. This has to be some kind of trick, a psychological warfare tactic designed to lower their guard before the real cruelty begins. She keeps her face carefully neutral as she climbs down from the truck, her legs stiff from hours of sitting. But as the 43 women are led toward the barracks, Anna notices details that do not fit the narrative she has been taught. The American guards look bored rather than menacing. One is reading a newspaper. Another is drinking coffee from a metal cup, steam rising in the cold November air. They glance at the German prisoners with mild curiosity, nothing more. No hostility. No hatred. Just professional indifference. The barracks smell of fresh pine and disinfectant. Inside rows of metal frame beds, each with a thin mattress, 2 blankets, a pillow. At the foot of each bed sits a small wooden footlocker. It is Spartan, certainly, but far from the punishment cells Anna expected. Far from the descriptions in the briefings about American prison camps. Young Rose sits tentatively on one of the beds near Anna. Her round face still holds traces of adolescent softness, despite months of rationed food. The mattress compresses under her slight weight. She touches the blanket with something like wonder. "It is not what they told us it would be like," Rosa whispers. Anna's jaw tightens. She knows what she should say, what her training demands she say. It is exactly what they told us. Americans lie with comfort before they strike with cruelty. Do not be fooled. But even as she speaks with conviction, a small seed of doubt takes root in her mind. Because the blankets are real, the mattress is real, the warmth of the heated barracks is real. And if these things are real, what else might be real that contradicts everything she knows? Elsewhere in the barracks, other women are making similar observations. Frida Klein, 23 communications specialist with an analyst's mind, runs her fingers along the electrical wiring visible near the ceiling. Proper copper wire. Not the jury-rigged aluminum substitutes common in Germany. The lights work with the flip of a switch. No rationing, no scheduled blackouts. Greta Fischer, 31 former teacher from Berlin, examines the construction of the building itself. Solid, well-built. This is not temporary, not hastily constructed. This camp has existed for some time, maintained and improved. The implications trouble her in ways she cannot quite articulate. Liesel Hoffman, 26 nurse, notices the cleanliness. The floors are swept, the walls whitewashed. The latrine facilities, when she investigates them, have running water. Hot water. She turns the tap experimentally, watches steam rise. In German field hospitals, she rationed water by the cupful. Here it flows endlessly. The mess hall bell rings at 6 o'clock, a sharp metallic sound that makes several women flinch. They have been given 30 minutes to settle into their barracks before being summoned for their first meal. Anna leads her group across the compound, maintaining military bearing, despite her confusion. She refuses to show weakness in front of their captors. The mess hall is a long, wooden building filled with rows of tables and benches. American soldiers occupy roughly half the space, eating and talking in relaxed clusters. The sight of men and women dining together so casually strikes Anna as improper, almost indecent. In Germany, military discipline maintains stricter separation between the sexes. But what truly shocks her is what happens when they reach the serving line. An American private stands behind a steam table. He cannot be more than 20 years old. Red hair, freckles, the kind of farm boy face that belongs in a Norman Rockwell painting. He begins loading their metal trays with food, and Anna feels her breath catch in her throat. Mashed potatoes. A mountain of them, steam rising, green beans glistening with butter, 2 thick slices of roast beef, pink in the center, juice pooling on the metal, a dinner roll, real butter, not margarine, a cup of coffee, black and rich smelling, and a square of chocolate cake for dessert. Anna stares at her tray. This is more food than she has seen in a single meal in over 2 years. In Germany, rations have been steadily decreasing since 1942. Meat is a luxury reserved for special occasions. Butter is a distant memory. Chocolate is something children dream about but never taste. Yet here she stands, a prisoner of war, holding a tray laden with abundance that would feed her entire family back home for days. Beside her, Katrine's hands shake as she accepts her own tray. Greta Fisher, the former teacher, with sharp, observant eyes, leans close. "This cannot be real food," she whispers in German. "It must be drugged or poisoned. Why else would they feed prisoners better than their own civilians? But the American soldiers are eating the same food from the same kitchen." Anna watches them carefully, noting how they take the abundance for granted. Some even leave food uneaten on their trays. The casual waste shocks her more than the quantity. These men are throwing away what would be precious in Germany. Anna and the other German women find seats at an empty table near the back. For a long moment, no one touches their food. They simply stare at the trays as if the meals might vanish like mirages. Young Rosa speaks first, her voice barely above a whisper. "If this is standard prison food, what do their civilians eat? What do their soldiers in combat receive?" The question hangs in the air between them, heavy with implications none of them want to acknowledge. If the propaganda lied about American poverty and desperation, what else has been a lie? Anna picks up her fork. Her hand trembles slightly. The first bite of roast beef melts in her mouth, rich and flavorful in a way she has almost forgotten food can be. Around her, the other German women begin to eat. Slowly at first, then with increasing urgency as hunger overcomes suspicion. But with each bite, the foundation of everything they believe begins to crack just a little bit more. The meat is real. The flavor is real. The abundance is real. And if these things are real, then what does that say about everything they were told about American weakness, about American desperation, about the inevitable German victory they had all been promised? Anna forces herself to eat slowly to maintain composure. But her mind races. She thinks about the last letter she received from her mother 8 months ago, before communications became impossible. Her mother had written about ration cuts, about making soup from potato peels, about neighbors growing weak from hunger, about children with swollen bellies and hollow eyes. And here in an American prison camp, the enemy serves roast beef and chocolate cake to captured German soldiers. The cognitive dissonance is almost physically painful. After dinner, the women are led back to their barracks. Dusk has fallen over Camp Ellis. Lights come on across the compound, powered by electricity that never fails, never flickers. In Germany, power cuts are routine. Here, the Americans waste light as casually as they waste food. Anna lies awake that first night, staring at the rough wooden ceiling of Barrack 7. Around her, 42 other German women sleep or pretend to sleep, each processing in their own way what they have experienced during their first hours in American captivity. The meal haunts her, not just the abundance of it, but the casual nature of that abundance. The American guards showed no special attention to the food service, no pride in displaying their superiority. They simply served standard prison rations as if feeding captured enemies generously was the most normal thing in the world. Anna was raised in Dresden in a middle-class family. Her father worked as an accountant. Her mother managed their household with the efficient precision expected of German women. She had two younger brothers, Franz 26 and Wilhelm 23. Both joined the Wehrmacht in the early days of the war. Franz was sent to the Eastern Front, Wilhelm to France. She has not heard from either of them in 3 months. The last letter from Franz came from somewhere near Warsaw. He could not say exactly where censors would not allow it, but he wrote about the cold, about the mud, about watching friends die, about wondering if any of them would ever see home again. Wilhelm's last letter was more guarded. He wrote about the weather, about missing their mother's cooking, about a book he was reading. Between the lines, Anna could read his fear, could sense that things were not going well on the Western Front, despite what the official reports claimed. And now she sits in an American prison camp eating better than her brothers eat, better than her parents ate before they. But she cannot let herself think about that, cannot let herself imagine what might have happened to them in the months since communication ceased. She had believed in the Reich, not out of fanaticism, but out of patriotism, out of faith that her country's leaders knew what was necessary for Germany's survival and prosperity. When the Women's Auxiliary Corps called for volunteers in 1942, Anna stepped forward without hesitation. She was assigned to administrative coordination in occupied France, managing supply records and personnel files. She never fired a weapon, never directly participated in combat operations, but she believed she was serving a righteous cause, defending her homeland against enemies who wanted to destroy German culture and enslave German people. The propaganda had been consistent and convincing. America was portrayed as a failing democracy torn apart by racial strife and economic collapse. American soldiers were depicted as undisciplined criminals, their military effectiveness a myth perpetuated by Jewish-controlled media. American abundance was described as a facade, hiding desperate poverty and social disintegration. Yet the evidence of her own eyes contradicts every single claim. The camp is well organized and professionally run. The American soldiers are disciplined and seem well trained. The food is not just adequate, but generous, suggesting resources far beyond what propaganda claimed. Anna rolls onto her side, pulling the surprisingly clean blanket closer. 2 beds away, she can hear Rosa crying softly in the darkness. The girl is homesick, frightened, too young to have developed the hardened shell that older prisoners cultivate. Tomorrow they will begin work assignments. Tomorrow they will interact more directly with their American captors. Tomorrow will bring more evidence that will either confirm her beliefs or continue to undermine them. Part of Anna desperately wants to cling to what she has been taught, to find explanations that preserve her worldview. Perhaps this camp is exceptional, designed specifically for propaganda purposes. Perhaps the food abundance is temporary, meant to soften them before interrogation. Perhaps everything will soon reveal itself to be the elaborate deception she was warned about. But another part of her, a part she tries to suppress, whispers that perhaps she has been the one deceived all along, that perhaps the real propaganda came from her own government, not from the enemy, that perhaps everything she believed and served has been built on lies. The thought terrifies her more than any physical threat the Americans could pose. In the darkness, Katrine's voice cuts through the quiet sounds of women settling for the night. Anna, are you awake? Yes. What are you thinking? A long pause. Anna knows she should say something reassuring, something that reinforces their shared belief in Germany's righteousness. But the words will not come. I am thinking about the chocolate cake, Anna finally admits. Katrine makes a sound that might be a laugh or might be a sob. I cannot stop thinking about it either. How long has it been since we had chocolate years? Before the war, maybe. Another silence. Then Katrine speaks again, her voice harder now, angry. This is what they do, Anna. They soften us with food and comfort, make us forget who we are, make us doubt. We must be strong. We must remember that this is temporary, that Germany will win, that we will go home and everything will be as it was. But Anna is not certain she believes that anymore. And she suspects Katrine does not either, because you cannot unlearn the taste of chocolate cake, cannot forget the sight of food being thrown away, cannot ignore the evidence of abundance that surrounds them on all sides. The war may end with German victory as they have been promised. But even if it does, Anna knows she will never be the same woman who climbed into that transport truck in France 3 weeks ago. That woman believed in certainties, in the righteousness of her cause, in the truth of everything she had been taught. This woman, lying on a clean mattress with a full stomach for the first time in years, believes in nothing except the evidence of her own senses. And her senses tell her that everything she thought she knew about America, about the war, about her own country, might be exactly backwards from the truth. Tomorrow she will meet Sergeant Thomas Bradley, a man who will help her search for her missing family, who will share cookies from his wife, who will treat her not as an enemy, but as a human being deserving of dignity and kindness. Tomorrow the real dismantling of her beliefs will begin. But tonight, Anna Weber lies awake in an American prison camp, holding the memory of chocolate cake on her tongue like a secret, like a question, like the first crack in a dam that once broken will flood everything she has ever known. Outside, the November wind rattles the barracks windows. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle sounds. And in a lecture hall that will not exist for another 29 years, an old woman turns a tiny compass in her hands and tells a room full of young faces about the moment when everything changed, when a box of candy and a worthless toy showed her the truth that her government had tried so desperately to hide. That kindness is stronger than cruelty. That truth always defeats lies. And that the real measure of a nation is not found in its propaganda or its military might, but in how it treats those who have no power to demand better treatment. The Americans chose mercy when they could have chosen revenge, chose generosity when they could have chosen cruelty, chose to see human beings when they could have seen only enemies. And that choice, made in a mess hall in Illinois over trays of roast beef and chocolate cake, would change the course of Anna Weber's life, would change the course of history itself, because the truth once tasted cannot be forgotten, and the kindness once experienced cannot be denied, even if it comes from the barrel of an enemy's gun, even if it comes wrapped in a gray auxiliary uniform, even if it comes from hands that yesterday held weapons and tomorrow might hold them again. The truth remains the truth. And Anna Weber, 24 years old, prisoner of war, loyal daughter of the Reich, is about to discover that the truth can set you free. But first, it has to break you. The morning of November 13th dawns cold and gray over Camp Ellis. Anna wakes to the sound of a bugle playing reveille, a military convention that feels oddly familiar despite the foreign setting. The German women dress quickly in the same auxiliary uniforms they have worn since capture, their clothing wrinkled but reasonably clean from the previous night's laundering facilities. Another unexpected luxury. After another abundant breakfast that leaves them uncomfortable with fullness, eggs and bacon and toast with jam, real jam made from actual fruit, Captain Morrison announces work assignments. The women will be divided into groups based on their previous skills and training. Some will work in the camp laundry, others in the kitchen, still others in administrative offices or the medical facility. Anna finds herself assigned to the camp's central administration building along with Frida and Greta. They will be sorting and filing paperwork under the supervision of an American sergeant. The work itself is mundane and familiar, the kind of bureaucratic labor Anna performed throughout her service in France. But as they walk across the compound toward the administration building, she notices details that compound yesterday's contradictions. The grounds are meticulously maintained, paths swept clean, buildings freshly painted. An American flag snaps in the November wind, the stars and stripes bright against the gray sky. In Germany, such attention to aesthetic details disappeared years ago as resources became scarce. Here, the Americans seem to have resources to waste on appearances. The administration building smells of paper and typewriter ribbon and coffee. Always coffee. The scent is becoming familiar, most comforting. A man sits at a desk near the door. Sergeant Thomas Bradley. 45 years old, gray threaded through his brown hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He looks up as they enter, and his face breaks into a genuine smile. "Good morning, ladies," he says in heavily accented German. His pronunciation is terrible, but the effort itself is unexpected. He gestures to 3 desks arranged near filing cabinets. "You work here. I show you." The office is heated. Radiators along the walls pump warmth into the space. In Germany, fuel shortages mean most offices are barely above freezing in winter. Here, the temperature is comfortable enough that Anna removes her coat. Bradley takes it from her, hangs it on a hook by the door with the same courtesy he might show a colleague rather than a prisoner. He shows them the filing system, explains in broken German, mixed with hand gestures, how to sort requisition forms, supply orders, personnel records. The work is simple, mechanical. But Bradley's patience is what strikes Anna. He repeats instructions without frustration, checks their work with gentle corrections rather than harsh critiques, treats them like employees rather than enemies. After an hour of work, Bradley opens a tin on his desk. Inside are cookies, homemade, the irregular shapes and varying sizes, proving they were baked by hand rather than mass-produced. He offers the tin to Anna, to Frida, to Greta. "My wife," he says, pointing to a photograph on his desk. "She send. Very good. You try." Anna takes a cookie hesitantly. It is still slightly soft as if recently baked. She bites into it. Oatmeal and raisins and a sweetness that makes her eyes sting with unexpected emotion. Not because it tastes good, though it does, but because this American sergeant is sharing food from his wife, from his home with German prisoners, as casually as if they were friends stopping by for coffee. Bradley pulls out more photographs. 2 young women in their early 20s. One dark-haired, one blonde, both smiling at the camera with the unguarded happiness of peacetime. "My daughters," he says with obvious pride. "Margaret, Ruth. Margaret work in factory now. Make airplane parts. Ruth is nurse. Like you," he adds, pointing at Greta, though Greta is a teacher, not a nurse. The confusion does not matter. What matters is that Bradley is showing them his family, trusting them with what he loves most. Anna finds herself telling him about her own family. The words come haltingly in her limited English mixed with German. She points to her coat pocket where she keeps the photograph. Bradley nods understanding without needing translation. He makes a gesture, pulling a form from a drawer. Red Cross, he says. I help you find family. We try. The offer is so unexpected, so generous, that Anna cannot speak for a moment. This American sergeant, this enemy, is offering to help her locate her family, her missing brothers, her parents whose fate she fears to know. He gains nothing from this kindness. There is no strategic advantage, no manipulation, just simple human compassion extended across enemy lines. Thank you, Anna manages in English. The words feel inadequate. Bradley waves off her gratitude. People are people, he says in English, then repeats it slowly. War is war. But people are people, you understand, Anna nods. She understands more than he knows. Understands that this simple philosophy, this refusal to dehumanize the enemy, is more powerful than any weapon, more dangerous to her beliefs than any propaganda could be. Throughout that first day and the days that follow, the routine establishes itself. Morning assembly, breakfast in the mess hall, where the food never diminishes, never disappoints. Work assignments where American supervisors treat them with professional courtesy. Lunch, more work, dinner, evening in the barracks. The rhythm is almost peaceful, almost normal. If not for the fences and guard towers, it would be easy to forget they are prisoners at all. Elsewhere in the camp, the other women are having similar experiences that chip away at their certainties. Liesel Hoffman in the medical facility discovers an infirmary that rivals or exceeds the German field hospitals where she trained. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the medical officer, treats Liesel not as a prisoner, but as a fellow professional. Shows her the supply rooms stocked with medicines Liesel has never seen before. Antibiotics, painkillers, surgical supplies that never run short. Chen explains procedures, asks for Liesel's opinion on patient care protocols, speaks to her with a respect that transcends nationality. In the camp laundry, young Rosa works alongside Private James Cooper, a farm boy from Iowa with an open face and easy laugh. He notices Rosa struggling with the American washing machines, which are far more advanced than anything she has seen in Germany. Electric, automatic, capable of cleaning an entire load in 30 minutes. Cooper shows her how to operate them, his hands guiding hers through the process with patient professionalism. He makes jokes she does not understand but laughs at anyway because his kindness needs no translation. By the end of the first week, the accumulated observations have created a crisis of faith among the German women. They gather in the barracks after lights out, speaking in whispers that grow more urgent each night. Frida, with her communications background, has been analyzing the infrastructure. The electricity never fails, she reports. The water runs hot every morning without exception. The heating works perfectly. This is not temporary. This is not for show. This is their normal. Greta adds her observations about the American Guards. They are conscripts, she says, citizens called to service. Most are younger than 25. They complain about military discipline. They talk back to officers sometimes. They are casual about rules. By German standards, they are terribly undisciplined. She pauses for effect. And yet, they are winning. They crossed an ocean. They are defeating the Wehrmacht. How does a nation of undisciplined individualists beat the most organized military machine in history? The question haunts them because none of the propaganda answers hold up under scrutiny. The Americans are not weak, not desperate, not collapsing under the strain of war. If anything, they seem almost bored by the conflict, as if this global war is just an inconvenient interruption to their otherwise comfortable lives. Anna lies in her bunk during these discussions, turning Bradley's words over in her mind. People are people, such a simple concept, but it contradicts everything she was taught about racial hierarchies, about national destinies, about the fundamental differences between Germans and everyone else. If people are just people, if that basic humanity transcends nationality and ideology, then what justifies the war? What justifies any of it? By early December, the group has divided into two camps. Roughly half the women, led by Katrine, insist this is all temporary, a facade that will crumble. The kindness is strategic, designed to weaken their resolve before the real cruelty begins. They cling to their beliefs with the desperation of people who know their worldview is fracturing but cannot yet accept the alternative. The other half, including Ana Rosa, Frida, Greta, and Liesel, have begun to whisper dangerous thoughts. to question not just the propaganda about America, but the propaganda about everything, about the war, about the Reich, about what they have been serving and why. One evening, Rosa gives voice to what they are all thinking. Her young face is troubled in the dim barracks light. "What if we were the ones being lied to?" she asked quietly. Katrine's response is immediate and harsh. "Do not even think that. You are betraying Germany." Anna looks at her friend, this woman she fought beside in France, and speaks the truth that has been building in her for weeks. "Which Germany, Katrine? The one we were told exists, or the one that actually does?" The silence that follows is thick with tension. Katrine stares at Anna with something like betrayal in her eyes. "You have changed," she finally says. "They are getting to you. This is exactly what they want." Perhaps Anna admits, or perhaps I am finally seeing clearly. After that night, Katrine stops speaking to Anna. The friendship they built in France, forged in shared danger and mutual support, begins to fracture. And Anna realizes with a mixture of sadness and clarity that the Americans are not trying to break them. The truth is doing that all by itself. December 5th, 1944. The afternoon shift in the administration office. Anna has been filing supply requisitions for 2 hours, her mind only half engaged with the mechanical work. Frida sits at the adjacent desk, sorting personnel records. Greta is at the typewriter transcribing handwritten notes into official reports. The work is tedious, but not difficult. The heated office is comfortable. The coffee pot on the file cabinet is always full. Sergeant Bradley comes in carrying a cardboard box from the commissary. He is humming, as Americans always seem to be humming, perpetually cheerful in a way that would be annoying if it were not so genuine. He sets the box on his desk and opens it, pulling out smaller boxes. Red and yellow cardboard, a cartoon sailor boy and a dog printed on the front. Bright, colorful, commercial in a way that feels almost obscene in wartime. Bradley calls Frida over with a friendly gesture, holds out one of the small boxes to her. Frida approaches cautiously, taking the offered item with uncertain hands. The box is light, rattles slightly when she shakes it. Cracker Jack, Bradley says in English, speaking slowly so they might understand. "Prize inside." "Good. For you." He hands boxes to Anna and Greta as well. Anna turns hers in her hands, examining it with the careful attention of someone trained to analyze everything for hidden meaning. The box is professionally printed, mass-produced. The words Cracker Jack in bold letters above the image of the sailor boy. On the back, smaller text, she is learning to read a prize in every box. The concept is alien to her. A prize. Inside food. Why would anyone put toys in food? She opens the box carefully as if it might explode. The smell hits her first. Caramel, rich and sweet and buttery. Inside, she finds popcorn coated in a glossy brown glaze, peanuts mixed throughout. She takes a piece tentatively, places it on her tongue. The sweetness is almost overwhelming after years of sugar rationing. The caramel melts, the popcorn crunches between her teeth with a satisfying texture. In Germany, sugar is rationed to 250 grams per month. This single box probably contains half that amount, given away with candy that children eat as an afternoon snack. But then Frida makes a small sound of surprise. She has poured the contents into her palm and found something unexpected among the candied pieces. A small wrapped package. She tears it open carefully. Inside is a tiny metal whistle painted red. "There is something inside," Frida says in German, her voice filled with confusion. There is a toy inside the candy. Anna dumps her own box into her hand, searches through the caramel-coated popcorn, and there, wrapped in wax paper, she finds it. A compass, no bigger than a quarter. Metal construction with a painted red casing. She unwraps it carefully. The compass is real, functional. The needle moves when she turns it, seeking magnetic north with precision. She stares at this object, this toy, this throwaway prize that American children receive for free with 5 cents worth of candy. The compass is made of metal, metal that Germany desperately needs for the war effort. Metal so precious that they are melting down church bells, collecting wedding rings, rationing every scrap of copper and iron and steel. And Americans are putting metal compasses in candy boxes for children to throw away after an afternoon of play. Greta has found a puzzle in her box, a tiny sliding tile game no larger than a matchbox. She holds it up, her teacher's mind clearly working through the implications. Bradley is laughing at their expressions, clearly amused by their shock. Prize inside, he explains in broken German, gesturing to show the surprise element. Kids love it. Crackerjack always has prize. Anna cannot speak, cannot process what she is holding. Because this tiny compass, this worthless toy, has just revealed a truth so enormous that it threatens to collapse everything she thought she knew about the world. These toys are manufactured, Frida says quietly, her communications training kicking in with analysis. Thousands of them must be produced to put one in every box. That requires industrial capacity, resources, design effort, distribution networks, all for something that children receive free with candy and probably discard within days. The implications are staggering. Germany's entire industrial might has been focused on war production for years. Civilian goods have become increasingly scarce. Luxuries have disappeared entirely. Even basic necessities are rationed carefully, every gram of metal accounted for and allocated to the war effort. Yet America, while fighting a war on two fronts, still has the industrial capacity to manufacture toys as throwaway prizes in candy boxes. Anna finds her voice, though speaking the words feels like betrayal. My brothers used to write about the shortages before I was captured. Rubber, metal, fuel, everything desperately needed for the war effort. We were told that America was suffering even worse shortages, that their economy was collapsing under the strain of war production. She holds up the tiny compass, watches the needle spin and settle. But they are putting metal compasses in candy boxes, not to boost morale or support the war effort, just because that is what they do normally, even during wartime. The silence that follows her observation is heavy with implications. None of them want to fully acknowledge. If America has such abundance that they can waste resources on toys and candy boxes during wartime, what does that say about German propaganda, claims of American weakness? What does it say about the inevitable German victory they have all been promised? The office feels suddenly small, claustrophobic. Anna's hands shake as she wraps the compass back in its wax paper. She should throw it away, should refuse this obvious propaganda tool, but instead she slips it into her pocket. A secret, a question, a piece of evidence that will not let her look away from uncomfortable truths. That evening in the barracks, the crackerjack boxes become the center of intense discussion among the German women. Anna sits on her bunk, turning the tiny compass over in her fingers, while conversations swirl around her in urgent German whispers. Rosa has heard about the incident from the women who worked in administration and has spread the story throughout both barracks. Now everyone wants to see the evidence with their own eyes. The small toys are passed from hand to hand like religious relics, each woman examining them with expressions ranging from wonder to distress. It is propaganda, insists one woman, a former factory worker from Munich named Gisela. They are trying to convince us of American superiority with cheap tricks. But Greta shakes her head, her teacher's mind working through the logical implications. Propaganda would be showing us these things deliberately, making a presentation, calling attention to American wealth and power. The sergeant shared them casually, the way you would share something ordinary and unremarkable. He did not make a show of it, did not call attention to American abundance. He just handed out candy the way anyone might during a work break. Frida holds up the tiny whistle she found in her box. These toys are manufactured in massive quantities. Millions must exist. That requires factories dedicated to their production, workers employed in their creation, resources allocated to their distribution. And this is happening while America fights a global war. She pauses, letting them absorb the implications. In Germany, we stopped making toys in 1942. Every factory was converted to war production. Children play with wooden blocks carved by hand, if they play with anything at all. And we were told this sacrifice was necessary because America had even less than we did. Anna watches the discussions with a strange detachment. She knows where this is heading, can see the trajectory of their collective realization. But Katrine is not participating. Sits on her bunk and the far end of the barracks, back rigid, face set in hard lines of denial. Finally, Anna crosses the barracks to sit beside her former friend. Katrine does not acknowledge her presence, but Anna speaks anyway. The compass is real, Katrine. The food is real. The kindness is real. At some point, we have to accept what our eyes are telling us. Katrine turns, her expression fierce. And what are your eyes telling you, Anna? That everything we fought for was a lie, that Germany deserves to lose, that we should be grateful to our captors. Anna considers the questions carefully. Number, my eyes are telling me that we were lied to about America, that the propaganda inverted reality. We were told they were weak when they are strong, desperate when they are abundant, cruel when they are kind. If they lied about that, what else did they lie about? Katrine stands abruptly. I will not listen to this. I will not betray everything our families fought for, everything our country stands for. I am not betraying anything, Anna says quietly. I am just trying to see clearly, trying to understand the truth. The truth, Katrine spits the word like a curse, is that you are being seduced by comfort, by full stomachs and warm beds and toys and candy boxes. But comfort is not truth. Kindness is not truth. They are weapons, Anna. Weapons designed to make you forget who you are. Maybe Anna admits, or maybe kindness is just kindness. Maybe some things are exactly what they appear to be. Katrine walks away without another word, and Anna knows their friendship, already strained, has reached its breaking point, because they are choosing different responses to the same evidence. Katrine chooses to reject what contradicts her beliefs. Anna chooses to question the beliefs themselves. Neither choice is comfortable, but only one leads toward truth. Anna returns to her bunk, takes out the compass, and watches the needle seek north. Such a simple mechanism, such a profound metaphor. The needle always points true regardless of how you turn the casing, regardless of what you want it to show. Truth is like that, constant, unchanging, indifferent to belief or propaganda or desperate hope. And the truth this compass reveals is that everything Anna believed about America was backwards. If that is true, what else might be backwards? What other inversions has she accepted without question? The thought is terrifying and liberating and inevitable. Because once you start seeing clearly, you cannot choose blindness again. Once you taste the truth, lies lose their flavor. Once you hold evidence in your palm, faith in contradictory doctrine becomes impossible to maintain. Anna Weber, 24 years old, prisoner of war, loyal daughter of the Reich, lies in her bunk holding a one-penny toy compass and feeling her entire worldview crumble like walls before an artillery barrage. Outside, the December wind rattles barracks windows. Inside, German women wrestle with revelations that will change their lives forever. And in the space between what they were taught and what they are learning, the new understanding begins to take shape. An understanding built not on ideology or propaganda or national mythology, but on the simple evidence of generous portions in clean blankets and toys hidden in candy boxes. On the revolutionary idea that maybe, just maybe, the enemy has been telling the truth all along. December 23rd, 1944. The mess hall at Camp Ellis has been transformed in ways that seem impossible during wartime. Garlands hang from the rafters, pine boughs strung with red ribbons that fill the space with the scent of evergreen. A tall Christmas tree stands in the corner, decorated with glass ornaments and strings of popcorn and small electric lights that twinkle like stars. The sight is so incongruous with everything Anna knows about war that she stops in the doorway, momentarily unable to process what she is seeing. Captain Morrison stands near the Christmas tree, her face softer than usual. Behind her, tables are stacked with cardboard boxes bearing Red Cross markings. Each box has a name written in careful English script across the top. Ladies, Morrison says through the translator, the International Red Cross has delivered Christmas packages for distribution to all prisoners of war. These packages were donated by American civilians, ordinary citizens who wanted you to have something special for the holiday season. The words hang in the cold December air. Anna hears them, but cannot quite make sense of them. American civilians, donating packages for German prisoners, for the enemy. The concept is so foreign to everything she understands about war, about hatred, about how nations treat those who have tried to kill their sons and brothers. Morrison begins calling names. One by one, the German women walk forward to collect their packages. Some approach hesitantly, as if the boxes might vanish like mirages. Others move with barely controlled emotion, hands shaking as they accept gifts from strangers who have every reason to hate them. When Morrison calls Anna Weber, Anna walks forward on legs that feel disconnected from her body. The box is heavier than she expected. Real weight, real contents. She carries it back to a table and sits down, staring at her name written in English by someone she will never meet. Slowly, carefully, she unties the string. opens the cardboard lid. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, she finds treasures that make her throat constrict with emotion she cannot name. A scarf, hand-knitted in soft blue wool. Anna lifts it out, holds it to her face. The wool smells faintly of lavender, as if it was stored in a drawer with sachets. She runs her fingers over the stitches, each one made by hand, hours of work, by someone who spent her evenings making this for a German prisoner. For Anna, for the enemy. A bar of soap wrapped in paper. Real soap, not the harsh lye bars they used in Germany. Lavender scent matching the scarf. Luxury made tangible. A small bag of hard candies. Peppermint butterscotch lemon drops. Colors bright enough to hurt after years of drab rations. A deck of playing cards with American designs. Pictures of national parks and monuments. The Grand Canyon. Yellowstone. Niagara Falls. Places Anna never knew existed. And at the bottom, a paperback book. Anna picks it up with trembling hands. The cover is in German. Buddenbrooks by Thomas Mann. She stares at the title, her mind struggling to accept what she is holding. This book has been banned in Germany since 1933. Classified as degenerate literature, unfit for German readers, dangerous to the Reich. Possession of it could mean imprisonment. And here in an American POW camp, she is being given banned books by her captors, being offered intellectual freedom that her own government denied her. Inside the front cover, a handwritten note card. The handwriting is careful, each letter formed with obvious effort. To a German prisoner. May you find peace this Christmas season. From the Riverside Lutheran Church, Ladies Auxiliary, Davenport, Iowa. Anna reads the note 3 times, 4 times, trying to comprehend the kindness that would prompt someone in Davenport, Iowa, wherever that is, to spend time and money and effort creating this package for a woman she has never met. A woman whose country is trying to kill her sons. A woman who wears the uniform of the enemy. Around her, other women are opening similar packages. Rosa sits 2 tables away, holding a small stuffed bear to her chest. Tears stream down her young face, unchecked and unashamed. She is 19 years old. She wants her mother. And an American stranger has sent her a teddy bear because someone somewhere understood that comfort transcends nationality. Frida has received a pair of knitted mittens. She puts them on flexes. Her fingers stares at her hands as if they belong to someone else. Greta holds a book of poetry. English language, but poetry nonetheless. She opens to a random page, reads silently, and something in her expression shifts, softens. Only Katrine refuses to open her package, sits with her arms crossed, the unopened box in front of her like an accusation. I will not wear enemy charity, she says loudly enough for others to hear. I will not be bought with gifts while our families suffer. But her voice cracks on the last word, because they all know what this means. These American women knitting scarves and baking cookies and wrapping soap in tissue paper. They know what it means that civilians, people with no military obligation, no strategic reason, chose compassion over hatred. It means that the propaganda about American cruelty was not just exaggerated, it was completely fundamentally inverted. The truth is the exact opposite of what they were taught. And if that is true, what else might be inverted? What other lies have they built their lives upon? Anna wraps the blue scarf around her neck. The wool is soft against her skin, warm in a way that goes beyond physical temperature. She thinks about the woman in Davenport who made this. Imagines her sitting by a radio in the evening, listening to news about the war, about German armies retreating, about American boys dying in France, and then picking up knitting needles to make a scarf for a German prisoner. The cognitive dissonance is almost physically painful. Christmas morning arrives wrapped in fresh snow. The first real snowfall of the season blankets Camp Ellis in white that sparkles under weak winter sunlight. Anna wakes to find that someone has placed a small evergreen tree in the barracks overnight. Its pine scent fills the space, mixing with the smell of coffee drifting from the mess hall. The Christmas meal is beyond anything Anna has imagined. The tables in the mess hall are covered with white cloths. Pine garlands run down the centers, and the food, when it arrives, transforms the space into something from a half-remembered dream of peacetime abundance. Roasted turkey, whole bird's golden brown skin crispy and glistening. The smell alone is enough to make Anna dizzy with sense memory. She has not seen a whole roasted bird in years. Dressing with sage and onions, herbs that disappeared from German markets in 1942. Mashed potatoes in quantities that seem obscene. Mountains of them, butter melting into golden pools on top. Gravy. Cranberry sauce, bright red and tart sweet. Green beans with slivered almonds. Sweet potato casserole topped with something the Americans call marshmallows white and toasted and impossibly sweet. Dinner rolls, real yeast rolls, soft and warm with butter that is not rationed or substituted or stretched thin. Just butter, rich and yellow and abundant. And for dessert, two kinds of pie, pumpkin and apple. Anna has no idea what pumpkin tastes like, but she tries it anyway. The spices cinnamon and nutmeg and ginger are flavors she has almost forgotten existed. This is not just a meal. This is a statement. This is America saying that even in war, even for prisoners, even for enemies, we celebrate abundance. We celebrate humanity. We refuse to let conflict strip away our capacity for generosity. The message is clearer than any propaganda could be, louder than any speech, more powerful than any newsreel. Sergeant Bradley appears in the mess hall around 2 in the afternoon. It is his day off. He has no obligation to be here. But he comes anyway, carrying a box of chocolates his wife sent from Ohio. For my office girls, he says in broken German, his smile genuine and warm. Merry Christmas. He hands the box to Anna, to Frida, to Greta. The chocolates are handmade. Different shapes and sizes, proving they were created in someone's kitchen, not a factory. Bradley's wife made these, sent them to her husband stationed at a POW camp. And Bradley is sharing them with German prisoners because to him, this is just what you do at Christmas. You share what you have with the people around you, regardless of which side of the war they stand on. Anna tries to thank him in English. The words come haltingly but with feeling. Merry Christmas, Sergeant Bradley. Thank you for everything you have done for me, for helping me find my family, for your kindness. Bradley waves off the gratitude with the same gesture he always uses. People are people, he says simply. War is war, but people are people. You understand? Anna nods. She understands better than he knows. Understands that this philosophy, this refusal to dehumanize the enemy, is more revolutionary than any political ideology, more powerful than any military strategy, because it makes war itself impossible to sustain. How can you hate someone who shares his wife's chocolates? How can you maintain ideological purity when the enemy treats you with dignity? How can you believe in national superiority when the supposedly inferior nation feeds you better than your own country ever did? You cannot. The human connection dissolves the abstractions that make war possible. Katrine watches from across the mess hall. She has attended the Christmas meal, has eaten the turkey and pie, but her face is stone. When several of the younger women begin singing Christmas carols and German traditional songs from childhood, Katrine stands abruptly and leaves. The songs continue without her, but Anna feels the absence like a wound. They are losing Katrine to her need to believe, losing her to the desperate conviction that admitting doubt would mean betraying everything she has sacrificed for. Anna understands the impulse, shares it even, but she cannot lie to herself anymore, cannot deny the evidence that accumulates every single day. The days between Christmas and New Year pass in a strange liminal space. The war continues somewhere far away. News filters through about Allied advances, about German retreats, about battles whose outcomes seem increasingly inevitable. But in Camp Ellis, life follows its established rhythm. Work, meals, evening gatherings in the barracks where women who were strangers 6 weeks ago have become something like family. Anna has started the English lessons with one of the guards, practices phrases in her spare time, reads American newspapers when Bradley brings them to the office, struggling through articles about the war from the enemy's perspective. The language is difficult, but she persists because learning English feels like building a bridge to a future she cannot yet fully imagine. January 10th, 1945. Captain Morrison summons all the German prisoners to the mess hall for an announcement. Her expression is grave in a way that makes Anna's stomach clench with foreboding. Ladies, Morrison says through the translator, the Red Cross has delivered mail from Germany. Letters that have been routed through neutral countries and censored by both German and American authorities. Not everyone will receive letters. Some families cannot be located. Some addresses no longer exist. She pauses, and in that pause, Anna hears the unspoken truth. Some families no longer exist. Morrison begins reading names from a list. 28 women out of 43 will receive letters that day. Anna's name is called. So are Rosa's, Frida's, Greta's, Liesel's. They walk forward to collect envelopes that have crossed an ocean, passed through multiple hands, been stamped and censored and delayed by the machinery of war. Katrine's name is not called. She sits very still, very straight as other women collect their mail. Her face reveals nothing, but Anna knows her well enough to see the devastation beneath the rigid control. Anna returns to her seat holding an envelope addressed in handwriting she does not recognize. Not her mother's careful script, not her father's angular letters. Someone else. She opens it with fingers that shake, pulls out a single sheet of paper covered in cramped German text. Dear Anna, the letter begins. I regret to inform you. The words that follow are knives. Each sentence cuts deeper than the last. Your mother, Clara Weber, died on October 7, 1944, in the Allied bombing raid on Dresden. The building collapsed. She died instantly, thank God she did not suffer. Your father, Heinrich Weber, survived 3 days in hospital before succumbing to his injuries. I held his hand at the end. He spoke your name. He wanted you to know he loved you. Anna reads the words, but they seem to belong to someone else's story. Cannot belong to hers. Cannot be real. Her parents were supposed to be safe. Supposed to be waiting for her to return home. Supposed to be there at the end of this nightmare. As for your brothers, the letter continues, I have no news. Franz was reported missing in action near Warsaw in August. Wilhelm's unit was reassigned to the Western Front. I do not know if they are alive. I am sorry, Anna. I am so sorry to be the bearer of such terrible news. The signature is from Frau Hoffmann, a neighbor from their apartment building. A woman who bakes excellent strudel and keeps cats and has apparently survived long enough to write letters bearing unbearable news. Anna sits holding the letter. Around her, similar scenes unfold. Women reading words that shatter their remaining illusions about what awaits them at home. 17 of the 28 letters contain news of deaths. Parents, siblings, husbands, children. The toll of Allied bombing and Soviet advance documented in careful, censored language that cannot hide the devastation. Liesel learns that her fiancé died on the Eastern Front 6 months earlier. She makes no sound, but tears stream silently down her face. Frida discovers that her entire neighborhood in Berlin has been destroyed. Everyone she knew gone. Rosa's letter brings news that her father was killed in an industrial accident when his factory was bombed. Her mother and younger sister were evacuated to the countryside, but their current location is unknown. Rosa is 19 years old. She has no way to find them. No way to know if they are alive or dead or suffering. The mess hall fills with grief so thick it seems to displace the air. Women who have held themselves together through capture, through imprisonment, through the slow erosion of their beliefs, finally break under the weight of personal loss. Captain Morrison moves through the room, her face wet with tears. She is crying. The American captain is crying for German prisoners, for enemy women who have lost family to American bombs. She stops at each table, offers condolences through the translator, asks if anyone needs anything, makes herself available to share the grief of people her country is at war with. Anna looks up at Morrison through her own tears and sees compassion so genuine it cannot be faked or manufactured or deployed as strategy. This woman cares, actually cares, about the pain of her prisoners, about their losses, about their humanity. And Anna realizes with a jolt of understanding that makes her head spin. The same nation that bombed Dresden is offering her comfort. The same soldiers who killed her parents are treating her with dignity. The same enemy she was taught to hate has shown her more kindness than her own government ever did. How do you reconcile that? How do you hold both truths simultaneously? That the Americans killed your family, and the Americans fed you turkey, and the Americans gave you Christmas presents, and the Americans destroyed your city. You cannot. The contradictions are too large. The paradox too painful. Later that night, Anna sits alone in the chapel. Father O'Brien, the camp chaplain, finds her there. He speaks limited German and Anna speaks limited English, but grief needs no translation. He sits in the pew beside her, silent and present, while she cries for her parents, for her lost brothers, for the home that no longer exists, for the Germany that is dying even as she sits safe and well-fed in enemy captivity. When the tears finally slow, Father O'Brien speaks in halting German mixed with English. God mourns with you. He places a hand over his heart. People are people. Same words Bradley uses, same philosophy of common humanity transcending conflict. Anna nods, unable to speak, but she understands what he is offering. Not absolution, because she has not yet figured out what she needs absolution for, but acknowledgement, witness, the simple recognition that her grief matters, that her pain is real, that losing family is tragedy regardless of which side of the war you occupy. The next weeks pass in a fog of grief and guilt. Anna forces herself to continue her work in the administration office, to eat meals she no longer tastes, to participate in routines that feel increasingly surreal. But inside, she is wrestling with questions that have no easy answers. Her parents died because of Allied bombs, but they died in a war Germany started, a war Anna supported, a war she participated in, however peripherally, by serving in the Women's Auxiliary Corps. How much responsibility does she bear? How much guilt should she carry? And how can she accept kindness from the people whose bombs killed her family? Bradley tries to help, increases his efforts with the Red Cross to find her brothers, brings her extra coffee, speaks to her with extra gentleness. But he cannot solve the fundamental paradox of her situation. Then comes February 16th, 1945, the day that will redefine everything Anna thought she understood about guilt and complicity and the war itself. Captain Morrison calls an emergency assembly in the mess hall. Her face is grim in a way that Anna has never seen. Photographs are spread across tables, newspapers, documents bearing official seals. The setup feels ominous, like preparation for some revelation too large to be delivered without visual evidence. Ladies, Morrison says through the translator, her voice heavy with something Anna cannot quite identify. Allied forces have begun liberating camps in Poland and Germany. What we have found, what we have documented. She pauses, struggling for words. I need to show you something. Not as propaganda, not as revenge, but as truth. You need to see what has been done in your country's name. The first photograph shows Gates. Bergen-Belsen, the sign reads. Anna recognizes the name from propaganda. A work camp for enemies of the state, she was told. A place where undesirables were kept away from good Germans. The next photograph shows bodies. Not one or two, not a handful, hundreds of them. Thousands. Stacked like cordwood, naked and skeletal limbs at impossible angles. Human beings reduced to something less than human by systematic starvation. Anna's mind rejects what her eyes are seeing. This cannot be real. Cannot be Germany. Cannot be what her country, her people, her government has done. But Morrison keeps showing photographs. Survivors who weigh less than 80 pounds, eyes huge in skull faces. Children behind barbed wire, their bodies showing every bone. Gas chambers disguised as showers. Crematoria with ovens large enough to burn bodies by the dozen. Mountains of personal belongings sorted into piles. Shoes, glasses, hair. The systematic evidence of industrial murder. The photographs are too detailed to be fabricated, too numerous to be isolated incidents, too consistent across multiple camps to be anything other than what Morrison claims. Evidence of systematic genocide perpetrated by the German government against its own citizens and conquered peoples. Anna stares at a photograph of the gates, at the slogan written there, Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free. The lie is so brazen, so cruel that it makes her stomach heave. Around her, other women react with similar horror. Some turn away, unable to look. Some vomit. Rosa runs from the mess hall, the sound of her retching audible in the sudden silence. Katrine stands abruptly. This is propaganda, she shouts in German. Allied fabrications designed to justify their invasion of our homeland. We would not. We could not. This is impossible. Morrison has anticipated this reaction. She produces newspapers from Switzerland and Sweden, neutral countries, whose reports confirm the Allied findings. She provides testimony from international Red Cross observers who visited the liberated camps. She offers to arrange meetings with American soldiers who participated in the liberations and can provide first-hand accounts. The evidence is overwhelming, irrefutable. These camps existed. These crimes were committed. These victims suffered and died while ordinary Germans like Anna herself claimed ignorance. But ignorance is not innocence. Ignorance is what allowed this to happen. Willful blindness is complicity. Anna looks at the photographs and understands with sickening clarity. She served this. She was part of this, not directly. She never set foot in a concentration camp, never personally participated in atrocities, but she believed in the system that built them, worked for the government that ordered them, wore the uniform of the regime that perpetrated them. What have we done? The words escape before she can stop them. Mein Gott, what have we done? The question echoes in the mess hall. Other women take it up, repeating it like a prayer or a curse or a confession. What have we done? What were we part of? How could we not have known that night no one in the barracks sleeps? Women sit in small clusters, speaking in hushed German, trying to process the impossible reality they now face. The physical conditions of their captivity have not changed. The Americans continue treating them with the same professional courtesy and unexpected kindness. But internally, each woman grapples with questions of complicity, guilt, and identity that have no easy answers. Greta speaks into the darkness, her teacher's voice stripped of its usual confidence. How could we not know? How could an entire nation not know? But we did know. Frida says quietly. We chose not to know. They took away the Jews in our neighborhoods and we asked no questions. They closed the synagogues and we looked the other way. We knew. We just did not want to see. Liesel adds her confession. I treated wounded soldiers, sent them back to the front. Did some of them go to these camps? Did I help perpetrators heal so they could perpetuate more horrors? Rosa, youngest among them, speaks with the simplicity of youth, confronting incomprehensible evil. My father made ball bearings for tanks, tanks that might have transported people to these camps. Does that make him guilty? Does it make me guilty for being proud of his work? The questions have no answers. Or rather, they have only terrible answers that implicate everyone who participated in the system, however peripherally, however unknowingly. Anna lies in her bunk holding the Cracker Jack compass in one hand and her mother's photograph in the other, two objects that represent the paradox of her existence. The compass, evidence of American abundance and kindness. The photograph, evidence of loss caused by American bombs. But now there is a third element, the photographs from the camps, evidence of German evil so systematic and thorough that it makes American bombing seem almost merciful by comparison. Her parents died in an Allied air raid. Terrible, tragic, unforgivable. But they died in a war that Germany started, a war prosecuted by a government that built factories of death, a regime that murdered millions of innocent people for no reason except hatred and ideology and the pursuit of racial purity. Anna served that regime, believed in it, defended it at least in her own mind as righteous and necessary, and now she must reconcile that service with this knowledge, must find a way to live with the understanding that she contributed, however slightly, to something monstrous. The Americans could destroy them for this, would be justified in doing so. The Geneva Convention requires humane treatment of prisoners, yes, but surely there are exceptions for people who serve governments that committed genocide. Yet the Americans continue to serve them turkey and give them Christmas packages and help them search for lost family members. Continue to treat them with dignity despite knowing what their country has done. Why? Why would Americans show mercy to people who served the Reich? Why would they feed and house and care for prisoners whose government built death camps? Anna does not have an answer, cannot fathom the generosity required to separate individual people from collective guilt, cannot understand the philosophical framework that allows Americans to hate the Nazi regime while still treating German prisoners as human beings deserving of basic dignity. But she is grateful for it, grateful in a way that makes her ashamed of her gratitude. Because how can she accept kindness from her enemies while her parents lie dead in the rubble of Dresden? How can she eat American food and wear American gifts and learn American language while her brother's fates remain unknown? The contradictions are unbearable. The guilt is crushing. The shame is infinite. And yet, the compass still points north. The truth is still the truth. The kindness is still real. America did not build the death camps. Germany did. America did not start the war. Germany did. America is not perfect, has its own sins and failures and crimes, but in this particular calculus of evil, the moral clarity is absolute. Germany was wrong. The Reich was evil. Everything Anna believed and served was built on lies that led directly to the industrial murder of millions of innocent people. Accepting that truth is the hardest thing she has ever done, harder than capture. harder than imprisonment, harder even than losing her parents. But the evidence demands acceptance. The photographs cannot be unseen. The truth cannot be unknown. And once you know, once you truly see, you face a choice. You can retreat into denial like Katrine in clinging desperately to beliefs that reality has demolished. Or you can accept the truth and try to build something better from the ruins of everything you thought you knew. Anna chooses truth, chooses to see clearly even though clarity brings pain, chooses to acknowledge German guilt even though acknowledgement implicates her own past service, because the alternative is to remain in the comfortable lie. And the compass has shown her that lies, however comfortable, however convenient, however necessary they seem, always lead to darkness. Only truth can set you free, even when freedom feels like falling. May 8th, 1945. The war in Europe is over. Germany has surrendered unconditionally. The news arrives on a Tuesday morning, delivered by Captain Morrison in the mess hall, where 43 German women sit eating breakfast that tastes like ash in their mouths. Victory in Europe Day, Morrison announces. Her voice is neutral professional. Within 3 weeks, arrangements will be made to transport you home. You will be processed through displaced persons camps in Europe before being released into occupied Germany. Home. The word echoes in the sudden silence. Anna turns it over in her mind like the compass in her pocket. What home? Her parents are dead. Her house is rubble. Dresden is occupied by Soviet forces. Her brothers, if they still live, are somewhere in the chaos of a defeated nation. But Morrison is not finished speaking. However, she continues, given the circumstances, the ongoing chaos in occupied Germany, the destroyed infrastructure, the War Department has authorized an exception. She pauses, and in that pause, Anna feels the entire trajectory of her future shift. Those who wish may petition for reclassification as displaced persons rather than prisoners of war. This status would allow you to remain in the United States temporarily while seeking sponsorship from American families or organizations. The process is complex. There are no guarantees, but the option exists for those who choose it. The mess hall erupts in whispers, German voices rising in shock, in disbelief, in desperate hope. Stay in America with their captors. Anna's hands shake around her coffee cup. The possibility had not occurred to her, had seemed too impossible to even imagine. But now Morrison is offering it, making it real, making it a choice she must actually make. That evening in the barracks, the 43 women divide into factions with a speed that feels inevitable. Some declare immediately they will return to Germany, their duty, their homeland, their families waiting. Others want time to consider, and a small group, maybe 8 or 9, begins whispering about the unthinkable. What are we returning to? Greta asks during the heated discussion. Her teacher's voice is calm, but her eyes are troubled. Cities in ruins, no jobs, no infrastructure. 4 different occupation zones carved up by armies that hate each other. We do not even know which zone we would be sent to. Frida adds her analysis. The stigma. Everyone who served the Reich will be suspect. We will spend decades trying to prove we were not part of the atrocities, trying to convince people we did not know. Liesel speaks from her corner. I can help more people here. With proper medical supplies, proper training. In Germany, I would be sorting through rubble looking for bandages. Anna listens but says nothing, because the choice is not simple. The choice tears her apart. On one side, Germany, destroyed but still her homeland. The possibility that Franz or Wilhelm might be alive, might be searching for her. The duty to help rebuild what her country destroyed. On the other side, America. Safety, abundance, the possibility of a future not defined by guilt and ruins. The chance to become something other than what she was. And in the middle, the impossible question. What does she owe to the dead? What does she owe to the living? What does she owe to herself? Katrine has been silent through most of the discussion, but now she stands her face hard with something that looks like betrayal. You are talking about abandoning Germany in its darkest hour, she says, her voice shaking. When our country needs us most, you want to run away to comfort and safety. It is not running away, Anna hears herself say. It is choosing to rebuild ourselves before we try to rebuild our country. Katrine turns on her with fury that has been building for months. You are a coward, Anna Weber. Your parents died defending Germany, And you are going to stay with the people who killed them. Anna stands slowly, meets Katrine's eyes, speaks the truth that will end their friendship forever. My parents died because of lies, Katrine. German lies. If I go back now, I will just be swimming in more lies, drowning in them. Here I have found truth, even if it is painful, even if it makes me complicit in things I cannot forgive. At least it is truth. Katrine's face goes white. So you admit it. You are choosing them over us. I am choosing truth over lies. Anna's voice is steady now. I am choosing to acknowledge what we did, what we were part of. And I cannot do that in Germany. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The silence that follows is absolute. Then Katrine gathers her few possessions and moves her bunk to the far end of the barracks. The physical distance mirrors the chasm that has opened between them. Over the next days, 9 women make their decision. Anna, Rosa, Frida, Greta, Liesel, 4 others whose names will become part of this impossible story. They draft a petition to Captain Morrison, writing and rewriting the words in English that Anna has been learning for months. Captain Morrison, we respectfully request reclassification as displaced persons and permission to remain in the United States. We have nothing to return to in Germany. We have discovered in American captivity values of dignity, opportunity, and redemption that we wish to embrace fully. We understand the difficulties we face. We accept the uncertainty, but we believe that choosing to stay demonstrates that transformation is possible, that former enemies can become friends, that individuals can choose to be better than the systems that formed them. We humbly ask for the chance to prove ourselves worthy of this extraordinary opportunity. Anna signs first. Her hand only shakes a little. The others follow. 9 signatures on a piece of paper that will change 9 lives. Morrison reads their petition twice. Then she looks at them with something like wonder in her eyes. This is unprecedented, she says quietly. I will need to contact Washington. I cannot promise anything, but I will try. You deserve that chance. The weeks of waiting are torture. While other prisoners prepare to return home, the 9 who chose to stay exist in limbo. News arrives in fragments. The story has leaked to newspapers. The Peoria Journal runs a headline. Enemy prisoners seek American dream. Radio stations debate. Some Americans support them. Others are outraged. But then something remarkable happens. Support emerges from unexpected places. A letter arrives from the Riverside Lutheran Church in Davenport, the same church that sent Christmas packages. We would be honored to sponsor 2 of the women, the letter reads. Our congregation believes in redemption and second chances. That is what America stands for. Another letter from Cedar Rapids, the Henderson family. Mrs. Henderson, a school teacher. Mr. Henderson, a shopkeeper. Both their sons served in Europe. We sent a Christmas package to prisoner Anna Weber. Mrs. Henderson writes in careful script. We would like to offer her a home. Our boys fought against Germany, but they fought for the principles that allow former enemies to become friends. We would be proud to help Miss Weber build a new life here. Anna holds the letter with shaking hands. These people, these strangers whose sons fought against her country, want to give her a home, want to help her, want to believe in her capacity for change. The kindness is almost unbearable. April 12th, 1945. Sergeant Bradley calls Anna to his office. His face is strange, excited and nervous at once. Red Cross telegram, he says, holding out a thin yellow paper. Your brother, Franz. Anna's heart stops. She cannot breathe, cannot move. Bradley gently places the telegram in her hands. Franz Weber, alive, released from Soviet POW camp in Poland, repatriated to Dresden, requesting contact with Sister Anna Weber. The words swim before her eyes. Franz, alive. After months of not knowing, after believing he was dead, Franz is alive. She sits down hard in Bradley's chair, begins to cry. Bradley pats her shoulder awkwardly, kindly, like a father with a daughter. Good news, he says in his broken German. Very good news. We help you write letter. Yes, Anna nods, unable to speak, because this changes everything. Franz is alive. Franz is in Dresden. Franz will expect her to come home. But she has already made her choice, already signed the petition, already committed to staying. How does she tell her brother that she is not coming home that she is choosing to remain with the enemy who bombed their parents, that she needs time to heal before she can face the ruins of everything they lost. That night, she writes a letter to Franz, writes and rewrites it a dozen times, finally settles on simple truth. Dear Franz, I'm alive. I am safe. I am in America in a place called Illinois. I know you will not understand this. I barely understand it myself, but I am not ready to come home. The America I've found is nothing like what we were told. The kindness I have received from people who should hate me has shown me that everything we believed was built on lies. I need time to reconcile what we did with what I thought we were doing. I need time to heal before I can face Dresden, before I can face the ruins of our family and our country. Please do not think I am abandoning you. I am trying to become someone worthy of rebuilding what we destroyed. Stay safe, dear brother. I will write when I can. I will come home when I am ready. I hope you can forgive me. Your loving sister, Anna. She seals the letter, gives it to Bradley to send through Red Cross channels, and tries not to think about Franz reading it in the rubble of Dresden, surrounded by devastation, learning that his sister is not coming home. June 15th, 1945. The day of separation. 34 women board trucks but bound for transport ships to Europe. 9 women remain waiting for their American sponsors to arrive. The farewell in the mess hall is wrenching. Women who were strangers 7 months ago have become family. They have shared food and fear and the slow collapse of everything they believed. Now they are choosing different paths into an uncertain future. Anna and Katrine face each other for the last time. The anger between them has cooled to something sadder. Resignation, perhaps, or understanding. If you ever come back to Germany, Katrine says stiffly, find me in Munich. Anna nods. If Franz comes looking for me, tell him I am sorry. Tell him I love him. Tell him I am trying to be better. Katrine's face softens for just a moment. I still think you are wrong, Anna, but I understand why you are doing it. They do not embrace. The moment is too painful, too final, but there is a mutual respect in the space between them. 2 women who chose differently, but chose honestly. The trucks pull away. Anna watches until they disappear in a cloud of dust. 34 women returning to face the ruins. 9 women staying to build something new. The Henderson family arrives that afternoon. Mrs. Henderson is tall and kind-faced with gray-streaked brown hair and eyes that crinkle when she smiles. Mr. Henderson is quieter, but his handshake is firm and warm. Welcome to America, Anna, Mrs. Henderson says in slow, careful English. Welcome to your new home. They drive to Cedar Rapids in a car that runs smoothly on real gasoline. Anna sits in the back seat watching the Iowa countryside roll past. Farmland, neat houses, churches with white steeples. A landscape untouched by war. The Henderson house is 2 stories white with blue shutters. A porch with a swing. A garden in the back. Mrs. Henderson shows Anna to a small bedroom on the 2nd floor. This is yours, she says. Make it home. Anna sets her few possessions on the dresser. The Cracker Jack compass. The blue scarf from Davenport. The photograph of her family. Everything she owns in the world. That evening, she sits at the Hendersons' dinner table. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes. Simple American food. Mr. Henderson says grace, thanking God for the end of the war and for bringing Anna safely to their home. Anna bows her head, tries not to cry, because these people, these kind, generous, impossible people, are welcoming her like family, are giving her a second chance, are allowing her to become something other than what she was. After dinner, Mrs. Henderson shows her where the library is in town. I spoke to the head librarian, she says. They need someone to help with filing and shelving. Your English is good enough. The quad is yours if you want it. Anna wants it, wants to work, wants to build a life, wants to prove that their faith in her is not misplaced. Over the months and years that follow, Anna builds that life. Works at the Cedar Rapids Public Library, attends English classes at the community center, learns to drive, makes friends, slowly, carefully becomes American. Letters arrive from Franz, brief at first, distant, but over time they warm. He writes about rebuilding Dresden, about the shortages and difficulties, about the division of Germany into East and West, about his life in the Soviet sector, and in every letter he includes a line that makes Anna's eyes sting with tears. You were braver than I am, he writes. Build your life there. Make it count. In 1951, Anna becomes an American citizen. She raises her right hand in a courtroom and swears allegiance to the United States of America. The judge who administers the oath is a veteran. He fought in France. He knows her story. When he shakes her hand afterward, he says simply, "Welcome home." In 1953, she marries Robert Henderson, Mrs. Henderson's nephew. He is a veteran too, wounded at Normandy, quiet and kind. They never talk about the war. Some wounds are too deep for words. In 1955, their daughter Sarah is born, an American girl who will never know hunger, never know war, never know the weight of lies. Anna holds her newborn daughter and weeps with gratitude for this second chance, this impossible gift of peace. In 1957, Franz visits from East Germany. It is difficult for him to get permission to travel west, but he manages it somehow. Brother and sister meet in a park in Cedar Rapids. Franz holds baby Sarah and cries. "She looks like Mama," he says. It is the only time they speak of their parents. They walk together through the peaceful Iowa afternoon. Franz tells her about his life in Dresden, about the communist government, about the restrictions and surveillance and the slow grinding poverty of the East. "And you," he asks, "are you happy here?" Anna considers the question, thinks about the Cracker Jack compass she still keeps in a drawer, about the blue scarf she still wears in winter, about the kindness that saved her life. "I am becoming happy," she says. "I am learning to live with what we did, learning to build something better from the ruins." Franz nods. That is all any of us can do. In 1968, Sarah starts at the University of Iowa. She wants to study international relations, wants to build bridges between nations, wants to prevent wars like the one that nearly destroyed her mother. Anna gives her the compass. "This showed me a new direction when I was lost," she says. "Now it is yours." Sarah accepts it with the reverence it deserves, carries it with her to college, keeps it on her desk as she studies the history of conflict and reconciliation. In 1973, the University of Iowa invites Anna to speak to students about her experiences, about transformation and redemption and the power of kindness to overcome hatred. Anna is 53 years old now. Her accent has softened but never disappeared. Her memories have faded in some places, sharpened in others. She stands at the podium in the lecture hall. 200 young faces watch. Sarah sits in the front row, pride shining in her eyes. Anna holds up the compass, tells the story of November 1944, of arriving at Camp Ellis, expecting cruelty and finding kindness, of the roast beef and chocolate cake that began to crack her certainties, of Sergeant Bradley and his philosophy that people are people, of Christmas packages from strangers, of the terrible revelation of the concentration camps, of the impossible choice to stay rather than return home. And she tells them what the compass taught her. That truth always points north regardless of how you turn it. That lies, however comforting, always lead to darkness. That small acts of kindness are more powerful than grand propaganda. That former enemies can become family if both sides choose love over hate. When she finishes speaking, there is silence. Then one person starts clapping. Sarah. Then another. Then the entire room rises in standing ovation. After the lecture, students crowd around with questions. How did you overcome the guilt? How did you reconcile your past with your present? How did you learn to forgive yourself? Anna answers as honestly as she can. "I did not overcome the guilt," she says. "I learned to carry it. I did not reconcile my past with my present. I acknowledge both as true. I did not forgive myself. I accepted forgiveness from others and tried to become worthy of it." One student asked the question Anna has been waiting for. "Do you regret staying? Do you wish you had gone home?" Anna looks at Sarah, at this American daughter who exists because of the choice she made 28 years ago, at this young woman who would build bridges instead of walls. "I regret that I had to make the choice at all," she says. "I regret the war. I regret the lies. I regret my part in something monstrous. But I do not regret choosing truth over lies. I do not regret choosing hope over despair. I do not regret choosing to become something better than what I was." In the years that follow, Anna becomes a fixture at the university. Students seek her out, want to hear her story, want to understand how transformation is possible, how former enemies can become friends, how individuals can choose good even when their nations choose evil. She stays in touch with the other 8 women who chose to remain. Rosa married Private Cooper, the farm boy from the laundry. They have 4 children and live in Des Moines. Frida works for the State Department, using her language skills to build diplomatic bridges. Greta earned her doctorate and teaches German literature at the University of Chicago. Liesel became head nurse at Cook County Hospital. They gather once a year, these 9 women who made an impossible choice. Share meals, share memories, share the burden of what they survived and what they chose. Franz visits when he can, though travel becomes harder as the Cold War deepens and the Berlin Wall rises. He writes regularly. His letters are full of news about East Germany, about his children, about the slow grinding of life under communism. In one letter, he writes something that Anna treasures. Sometimes I think you made the right choice staying in America. You got to build something new. We are still living in the ruins of what we destroyed. Katrine writes too occasionally. Brief letters from Munich. She became a teacher. Never married. Lives quietly, working to educate a new generation of Germans about what happened and why it must never happen again. I still think you abandoned us, she writes in one letter. But I understand why you had to. Some wounds are too deep to heal in the place they were made. In 1985, Franz dies. Heart attack at 67. Anna cannot attend the funeral. The East German government denies her visa request. She mourns from Cedar Rapids, 5,000 miles away, holding the photograph of 4 people who no longer exist. Wilhelm, the younger brother, was never found, declared dead in 1947. No one knows where he fell. No one knows where he is buried. In 1989, the Berlin Wall falls. Anna watches on television as Germans from East and West embrace, as families reunite after decades of separation, as the artificial division of her homeland finally ends. She cries for what was lost and for what might finally be rebuilt. In 1990, Anna Weber Henderson dies peacefully in her sleep at 69 years old. Sarah finds her in the morning, the Cracker Jack compass on the nightstand beside her bed. The funeral is large. Students, colleagues, friends, the Henderson family, the other women who chose to stay, those who are still alive. They gather to remember a woman who chose truth over lies, who chose hope over despair, who chose to become something better than what she had been. At the service, Sarah speaks about her mother's legacy, about the compass that pointed toward truth, about the kindness that saved a life and changed history, about the power of individuals to choose good even when their nations choose evil. The Cracker Jack compass is donated to the Smithsonian. It sits now in a case labeled German POW Artifacts, World War II. Visitors walk past it every day, not knowing the story it represents, not knowing that this toy, this worthless trinket, revealed truth to a young woman drowning in lies. But the story lives on in other ways. In Sarah, who becomes a diplomat and builds bridges between former enemies. In Sarah's children, who grow up knowing their grandmother's history and the weight of redemption. In students who hear the story and understand that transformation is possible, that former enemies can become family, that truth, however painful, is always better than comfortable lies. And somewhere in a lecture hall that exists in memory and story, a 53-year-old woman holds up a tiny compass and says to 200 young faces, "This costs nothing. American children threw these away without thinking. But to me, it was worth more than all the gold in Berlin, because it showed me the truth. That kindness is stronger than cruelty. That lies cannot survive contact with reality. That the real measure of a nation is not its military might or its propaganda, but how it treats those who have no power to demand better. The Americans chose mercy when they could have chosen revenge, chose generosity when they could have chosen cruelty, chose to see human beings when they could have seen only enemies. And that choice saved my life, changed my life, made my life possible. That choice showed me that redemption is real, that transformation is possible, that former enemies can become family, all because of a compass in a Cracker Jack box, all because someone chose kindness, all because truth, once tasted, cannot be forgotten. The needle always points north, truth always wins, and love given freely changes everything.